Ambassador Elena Reyes adjusted her formal diplomatic uniform one last time before the massive obsidian doors of the Grand Chamber. The weight of humanity's future rested on her shoulders. The first human to address the full Galactic Council after nearly a decade of preliminary negotiations. "Remember," her AI assistant whispered through her earpiece, "maintain eye contact with the Vexari representatives." Their species interprets averted gazes as deception. Elena nodded, her reflection distorted in the polished alien metal. At 43, she had spent her entire diplomatic career preparing for this moment. First contact had occurred 15 years ago, but the Council's bureaucracy moved at glacial speeds, especially for emerging species like humans. The doors parted soundlessly, revealing a cavernous chamber that defied human architectural sensibilities. 7 concentric rings descended toward a central speaking platform, each populated with representatives of the 28 Council species. The air shimmered with holographic translations and species-specific atmospheric accommodations. As Elena walked the long transparent bridge to the speaking platform, thousands of alien eyes tracked her movement. The Council had deliberately designed this approach to intimidate supplicants. Elena refused to show weakness. Ambassador Elena Reyes of Earth announced the Chamber Herald, a tall, willowy being with iridescent skin, representing humanity in petition for associated status within the Galactic Council. Elena stepped onto the luminescent platform, which adjusted its height to align her eyeline with the first ring where the founding species sat. At the center, Grand Imperator Calvex of the Vexari leaned forward, mandibles clicking softly. A gesture Elena had studied, but still couldn't fully interpret. "You may present your case," the Imperator said, his translated voice surprisingly melodic. Elena began her carefully rehearsed address, speaking of humanity's rapid technological advancement, their cultural diversity, their eagerness to contribute to galactic knowledge. As she spoke, a curious thing happened. The constant background murmur of the chamber gradually diminished. Even skeptical council members seemed captivated by her passionate vision of cooperation. "Humanity brings unique perspectives," she continued. "Our adaptability, our creativity in crisis, our capacity to forge unity from difference. These are qualities we offer to the greater galactic community." The presentation was going better than expected. Even the notoriously dismissive Orcs representatives were leaning forward in their crystalline bodies, light refracting through them in patterns that indicated interest. Then came the oath of truth speaking, the final ceremonial requirement. A Vexari attendant approached with a ceremonial vessel of clear liquid. Elena had been briefed on this ritual. Drink half, speak the oath, then pour the remainder into a basin as a symbol of transparency. She raised the vessel to her lips, took the prescribed sip, and recited, "What I have spoken is truth. What remains unsayed shall harm none." As she tilted the vessel toward the waiting basin, her hand trembled slightly. Fatigue from the intense preparation, and the gravity difference on Centauri Prime. A small splash of liquid missed the basin, spattering onto the sacred platform. The chamber erupted in chaos. Council members rose, some shouting, others making gestures her translators couldn't process. Elena looked desperately toward her attaches at the far end of the bridge, but they appeared equally confused. Silence. Calvex's voice cut through the uproar. The chamber immediately stilled. Elena began to apologize, but the Imperator raised a multi-jointed limb. "The truth speaking has been defiled. The penalty is clear under council law." Energy restraints suddenly materialized around Elena's wrists and ankles. Understanding dawned in her eyes. This wasn't an accident. It was a trap deliberately set for her. "Wait," she began, but ceremonial execution beams were already aligning. In her final moments, Ambassador Reyes looked directly into the broadcast drones circling the platform. "Remember who we are," she said clearly, her voice steady despite everything. "Not what they make us become." The execution was transmitted across all galactic channels. Across Earth, Humans watched in stunned silence as their first diplomat to the stars died without trial or defense. In his private chamber, Calvex watched Earth's live feeds with satisfaction. Soon, they would beg for mercy, as all new species did when shown their place. On screens across Earth, humans went eerily, unnaturally quiet. For exactly 12 hours after Ambassador Raya's execution, Earth fell silent. No official statements, no media commentary, no public demonstrations. Across the planet, humans watched the footage in homes, bars, public squares, military bases, and corporate boardrooms. Then they turned off their screens and began to move with unsettling purpose. Admiral Javier Chen stood before the UN Security Council in an underground facility beneath Geneva, his weathered face betraying no emotion. On the screen behind him, Alina's execution played on loop, muted. The Galactic Council expects panic, followed by submission, Chen said, his voice steady. Their historical records show this pattern with 17 previous species. They believe we will beg for forgiveness for an offense we did not commit. The Security Council representatives, normally fractious and territorial, sat in unified silence. They believe they have seen everything we are, Chen continued. They are mistaken. One by one, national leaders activated secure terminals, entering authorization codes for something called Protocol Cassandra, a contingency plan many had dismissed as paranoid when Chen had first proposed it 8 years ago after initial contact. Mobilization is already underway, confirmed General Ayanda Nkosi of the Pan-African Coalition Forces. Civilian aerospace contractors have opened their classified hangars. The lunar shipyards are at full production. The Chinese representative nodded. Our deep space monitoring stations went dark to Council observation 3 hours ago. The Mars defense grid is operational. Chen walked to the center of the room, activating a holographic display showing thousands of blinking lights scattered across a map of known Council space. These are our people, he explained. Students, merchants, tourists, researchers, placed throughout Council territories years before official diplomatic relations began. The British representative leaned forward. You infiltrated alien worlds without authorization. I did, Chen admitted without apology. And as of 6 hours ago, every one of those sleeper agents has activated. They're gathering intelligence, identifying vulnerabilities, and preparing for what comes next. The room was silent as the implications settled in. Chen displayed a hologram of young Elena at her academy graduation, her smile bright with hope. His composure slipped for just a moment. She was my student, my protege. He straightened his uniform. She believed in peaceful coexistence. I always feared this outcome. The UN Secretary General rose. The resolution before this council is clear. A declaration of total war against the Galactic Council, with particular focus on the Vexeri Imperium. All in favor. The vote took 9 minutes only because of authentication protocols. It was unanimous. On Centauri Prime, the Council maintained the ancient tradition of keeping Ambassador Raya's chair empty and illuminated for 3 standard days, a performative gesture of reflection after an execution. These humans are surprisingly quiet, observed a Meridian counselor, her aquatic breathing apparatus bubbling softly. Perhaps they're more rational than we assessed. The Vexeri representative chittered with amusement. Primitive species always respond this way initially. Shock, then capitulation. Their military technology is centuries behind ours. On the 3rd day, as council members gathered for their regular session, the empty chair in the human delegations area suddenly emitted a soft, pulsing glow. What is the meaning of this? Demanded Calvex. Before security could investigate, the chair imploded with a flash of light. When the council's vision cleared, they found their chamber intact but changed. Microscopic machines had spread throughout the room's systems, replicating and infiltrating the supposedly impenetrable security architecture. Every screen in the chamber displayed the same message in perfect galactic standard. You know nothing of humanity. This is your own Audiobook. Meanwhile, across council space, seemingly ordinary human visitors disappeared from monitoring systems. Merchants abandoned their wares. Students left academies mid-lecture. Tourists vanished from pleasure planets. On 17 critical council outposts, security systems reported all clear, while human agents methodically gathered intelligence on defense grids, fleet movements, and command structures. The Council wouldn't discover these breaches for weeks. In low Earth orbit, the first warships, vessels secretly built in underground facilities and asteroid bases, emerged from hiding. Their hulls bore a single marking: Elena Rey's face, rendered in stark black against silver metal. The silence was broken. Earth was going to war. 21 days after Elena's execution, a period humans traditionally set aside for mourning. Though the Council remained oblivious to this significance, 7 crucial Council outposts simultaneously went dark. No distress signals, no emergency broadcasts, just silence. The Council's emergency response followed standard protocol. Dispatch investigation teams, assume technical malfunction, prepare for possible pirate activity. What they found defied their understanding. On Outpost Viridian, Security Supervisor Galactic of the Tarvos species led the first response team. His report stunned Council military command. Outpost intact. No structural damage. No bodies. No signs of conventional battle. Security recordings show human soldiers somehow bypassing all defense systems simultaneously. They wore combat suits with a human face painted on their helmets. We've identified it as their executed diplomat. The humans took something from the weapons vault before vanishing. No trace of where they went. 6 identical reports followed from the other outposts. Grand Imperator Calvex dismissed these precision strikes as meaningless symbolic retaliation, the desperate flailing of a primitive species with limited strike capability. Let them take a few outposts, he declared to his war council. Today is the Millennium Procession, the sacred journey of our ceremonial fleet through the ancient starways. We will not disrupt tradition for human theatrics. The Millennium Procession was the Vexuri's most sacred ceremony. 100 perfectly preserved warships from their early space age, displaying their technological evolution and military supremacy. For 7 millennia, these immaculately maintained vessels had traveled between Vexuri colonies without incident, protected by modern escort ships. As the procession passed the 7th colony world, its commander received unusual readings. Before he could investigate, precisely targeted energy beams struck every escort vessel simultaneously. The ancient ceremonial ships, defenseless museum pieces, hung vulnerable in space. Across 57 worlds, Vexuri watched their live feeds in horror as human ships appeared from nowhere. These weren't the crude vessels Council intelligence had documented. These were sleek predators combining alien technology with uniquely human design principles. Transmission cut across all Vexuri frequencies. Admiral Chen's face appeared, his expression solemn. "You broadcast an execution to teach us submission," he said quietly. "Allow us to respond in kind." The broadcast showed the flagship of the ceremonial fleet, the Eternal Glory, a vessel considered the holiest relic in Vexuri culture. On its bridge stood its captain, mandibles trembling as armed humans surrounded him. The Vexuri High Command prepared to witness retribution, the execution of their sacred captain by human barbarians. Instead, the humans escorted the captain to an escape pod. As it launched to safety, one human soldier saluted it, a gesture incomprehensible to Vexuri observers. Moments later, the Eternal Glory transformed into a miniature star, its ancient atomics reconfigured to create a precisely controlled explosion visible from the Vexuri homeworld. The remaining 99 ceremonial ships remained untouched, their crews evacuated. The Council's war theorists scrambled to comprehend human battle tactics that defied prediction models. Their sensors had detected no approaching vessels. Their defenses had registered no weapon signatures until the moment of attack. Most disturbing were the after-action reports. Human soldiers fought in ways that contradicted all combat simulations. They sacrificed tactical advantage to recover their dead. They showed mercy to surrendering enemies. Yet when cornered, they exhibited impossible determination, fighting well beyond physiological limits the Council had documented. In the Council war room, a senior military advisor finally voiced what many now feared. We executed one human diplomat, and they respond not with blind rage, but surgical precision. They spare our people yet destroy our symbols. This was not an act of vengeance, but a message. Kelvex's mandibles clacked in agitation. And what message is that? The advisor's translator struggled to convey the gravity in his voice. That they could have killed everyone, but chose not to. This time, these symbolic attacks cannot be tolerated. Grand Imperator Kelvex's mandibles clacked furiously as he addressed the Emergency War Council. We will crush this human rebellion with overwhelming force. The Council military strategists had prepared what they considered an irresistible response. 7,000 warships, half the Galactic Council's total military strength, assembled to eliminate Earth in a single devastating assault. The Armada represented the largest military mobilization in 3 millennia. Our intelligence confirms humans possess no defense against our quantum weaponry, stated the Tarvos admiral. Their homeworld will be reduced to molten slag. Any colonies will surrender immediately thereafter. Kelvex approved the plan with a ceremonial claw stamp. The fleet departed within hours, jumping through Council-controlled hyperspace corridors toward the Sol system. As the vast armada approached their final jump coordinates, every navigator's console simultaneously flickered. For just a moment, Ambassador Raya's face appeared on their screens before all systems went dark. Ships lurched out of hyperspace at random coordinates across the galaxy, some into stars, others into asteroid fields or empty void. The carefully orchestrated attack dissolved into chaos. The Vexari flagship, the Indomitable Will, emerged alone near a small blue planet. Kelvex watched in disbelief as his mighty vessel was surrounded not by enemy warships, but by thousands of tiny civilian craft, shuttles, maintenance vessels, mining ships, retrofitted transports. Each transmitted the same message on all frequencies. We are not soldiers. We are teachers, doctors, artists. We carry no weapons. We number less than your crew. And you cannot stop us. Before the Vexari could fire, their systems failed catastrophically. Life support remained operational, but weapons, engines, and communications went dead. The flagship drifted, impotent amid the swarm of civilian vessels. On the bridge, screens activated independently of Vexari control. Admiral Chin's face appeared. Your species has controlled hyperspace navigation for millennia, he said calmly. You standardized the systems, made them foolproof. But Earth has had hackers since we had computers. Your systems were designed to resist outside attack, but not inside reconfiguration. The Admiral's image switched to footage from across the galaxy. Council ships emerging from hyperspace into disaster. None had reached Earth. None had fired a single shot. We call it the Abyss Protocol, Chen continued. A virus our agents planted in your navigation databases months ago. It only needed the right activation signal. Kelvex lunged at the screen. You will suffer for this, human. Chen's expression didn't change. Your crew will not be harmed. Your quarters have been sealed with emergency rations and air supply. You will be confined there while we broadcast something to your ship. For 3 weeks, the Indomitable Will drifted in space. Its crew, locked in their quarters, were forced to watch endless holographic testimony from human conflict zones throughout history. The Somme, Hiroshima, Rwanda, Syria. They witnessed humanity's capacity for both tremendous violence and remarkable reconciliation. When Council rescue ships finally arrived, they found the flagship intact but transformed. Every display showed different footage. Holocaust memorials, truth and reconciliation commissions, peace treaties signed after genocides. The final footage showed Admiral Chen addressing the camera directly. "You executed our diplomat to demonstrate superior power. We've disabled your fleet without killing a single crew member to demonstrate something else. Restraint. Humanity knows war better than you can imagine. We've fought ourselves for millennia. What you perceive as weakness, our diversity, our questioning, our mercy, these are strengths forged in blood." As reports of the failed assault spread throughout Council space, internal divisions formed. In a secure communication chamber, the aquatic Meridian Counselor composed an unprecedented message to Earth, amnesty in exchange for the technology humans called the Abyss Protocol. Her transmission was intercepted by Vexari loyalists. Within hours, she became the first council member charged with treason in 10,000 years. The war had reached a turning point, not through battlefield victory, but through the shattering of the Council's perceived invincibility. The public execution of the Meridian Counselor was broadcast across all Council frequencies, a demonstration that even the highest officials weren't immune to Vexari justice. The convicted traitor stood with dignity as the execution apparatus aligned. For the crime of unauthorized communication with enemy forces, you are sentenced to. The transmission abruptly cut off. When it resumed seconds later, it showed not the execution but the counselor in her private chambers. Recording testimony never meant for public viewing. "I record this knowing it may mean my death," her translator conveyed. For 2,000 years, the Vexari have controlled the Council through manipulation, blackmail, and cultural coercion disguised as galactic unity. Across the galaxy, billions watched as the Counselor methodically detailed centuries of Vexari machinations, engineered conflicts between species, suppressed technologies, cultural manipulations. In the Council's Emergency Communication Center, technicians frantically tried to halt the broadcast. "It's coming from inside our own systems," one reported, mandibles quivering. "Someone has access to the central archives." On 3 worlds simultaneously, revolution erupted. The hive-minded Skittle, having collectively processed the revelations, destroyed the Vexari regulatory temples that had controlled their society for generations. The remaining Meridian colonies declared independence from Council authority. Most surprisingly, the crystalline Orcs, previously considered incomprehensible to other species due to their mathematical language, transmitted unity signals with the rebels. Massive refugee ships departed these worlds, not fleeing to neutral space, but setting course directly for Earth. Dr. Layla Sharma, Earth's foremost xenoanthropologist, stood beside Admiral Chen as the first refugees arrived in Earth orbit. "This is unprecedented," she said, studying the preliminary communication. "They're not asking for sanctuary. They're asking to join us." The first diplomatic meeting occurred aboard the human station Harmony. Representatives from all 3 rebel species came not with demands but offerings, technologies, knowledge, and most crucially, information. As Chen attended to security protocols, Dr. Sharma made a remarkable discovery. Speaking with a young Meridian archivist named Heikel, she learned why these specific species had broken from the Council. "Your ancient records contain myths of early visitors from the stars," Heikel explained, her translation device struggling with complex concepts. "Similarly, our histories contain encounters with a race-matching human physiological profiles, long before official first contact." Dr. Sharma accessed historical databases. "You mean legends of aliens visiting Earth? Those are considered myths." "Not myths," the archivist countered. "Suppressed truths. The Vexari systematically erased evidence of early contact between our species and yours. They feared the cultural resonance between us. As refugee populations integrated with human communities, extraordinary collaborations emerged. Korok's crystalline technology merged with human computing systems, creating processing capabilities beyond anything previously imagined. Skittle Hive architecture principles revolutionized Earth's space stations. Meridian archaeological knowledge helped humans decode their own ancient sites in new ways. In a secure briefing room, Admiral Chen studied the most valuable intelligence the rebels had brought. Ancient star charts leading to the hidden Vexari throne world, a planet whose location had been systematically erased from all official records. "We should strike immediately," urged Captain Wang, Earth's most decorated Special Forces commander. A decapitation attack on their leadership. But Dr. Sharma proposed something unprecedented. The Vexari maintained control through their carefully constructed image of benevolent superiority. These records show their empire is built on cultural manipulation, not just military strength. We need to target that foundation. Her proposal was radical, cultural warfare instead of just physical confrontation. The Vexari believe their supremacy is the natural order of the galaxy, Sharma explained. What if we prove that everything they've taught other species about themselves is a lie? As humans and their new allies bent their combined intellect to this challenge, a new approach to interstellar warfare took shape, one that targeted not just ships and outposts, but the very narrative that had maintained Vexari dominance for millennia. The greatest weapon, they discovered, might not be destructive technology, but revelatory truth. Half a year after Ambassador Reyes' execution, space above Centauri Prime shimmered as reality itself seemed to fold. The collected fleet of human and allied vessels appeared simultaneously, utilizing a revolutionary jump technology that bypassed traditional detection systems. Inside the council chambers, alarms wailed. The Vexari representatives abandoned decorum, mandibles clicking rapidly in their species' panic response. "Planetary defenses online," shouted the security chief. "Prepare for bombardment." But the expected apocalyptic assault never came. Instead, a perfect translucent dome materialized around the planet, sealing Centauri Prime in an impenetrable barrier that permitted light but blocked all matter and energy weapons. Most critically, it severed all communication except a single channel that broadcast across the galaxy. On every world with access to interstellar communications, Binge watched as Admiral Chen appeared alongside representatives from 17 species, human, the rebel aliens, and several previously neutral civilizations. For millennia, Chen began, his voice translated into every known language. "You have been told that Centauri Prime houses the wisest beings in existence, the benevolent overseers of galactic peace. Today, we reveal the truth." The broadcast split into thousands of simultaneous feeds. Each showed meticulously documented evidence of Vexari manipulation, engineered famines to create dependency, artificially triggered conflicts between neighboring species, suppression of technological innovations that threatened Vexari dominance, cultural heritage sites destroyed and replaced with revisionist histories. Most stunning was footage of Grand Imperator Calvex planning Elena's execution months before she arrived at Centauri Prime. "The humans represent an unacceptable threat," the Imperator said in the recording. "Their diplomatic capabilities exceed predictions. Ambassador Reyes especially must be neutralized before her influence spreads." As evidence mounted, riots erupted on 300 worlds. Species that had submitted to council authority for generations now questioned everything they had been told. The shield around Centauri Prime began to selectively deactivate, creating corridors through which civilian evacuation ships could pass while keeping council leadership contained. Inside the council chambers, panic turned to desperation. 7 high-ranking members committed ritual suicide rather than face what was coming. Others attempted to contact their homeworlds, only to find communications blocked except for the ongoing revelations being broadcast about their misdeeds. When a Vexari counterattack fleet finally arrived, they found themselves blockaded not by human ships, but by vessels from dozens of previously neutral civilizations who now demanded accountability. Admiral Chen appeared again on the broadcast. His uniform was simple compared to the ornate regalia of council officials, yet now carried undeniable authority. "We could destroy Centauri Prime as you destroyed our voice of peace," he stated. "Instead, we offer what you denied Ambassador Reyes: justice through fair trial." The concept of interspecies judicial process was revolutionary. Throughout history, defeated species had expected extinction or subjugation. The idea that evidence would be presented, that defendants would speak, that judgment would be rendered by a diverse tribunal, these notions captivated galactic attention. On Earth, Dr. Sharma worked with legal experts from 17 species to establish the framework for what would become the first galactic tribunal. The principles were drawn from human jurisprudence, but adapted for interspecies application. Presumption of innocence, right to defense, evidence-based prosecution, proportional sentencing. Inside their containment on Centauri Prime, the Orcs representative translated the Vexari leadership's panicked communications for human intelligence. They fear human justice because they cannot comprehend it, the crystalline being explained. To them, power exists only to dominate. The possibility of judgment without predetermined vengeance is incomprehensible. As preparations for the tribunal proceeded, humans found themselves in an unexpected position, not just combatants in a war, but architects of a new galactic order. Their ideas about justice, previously dismissed as primitive idealism, now spread across the stars, challenging assumptions about power that had stood for millennia. The siege of Centauri Prime continued not with weapons, but with truth, a battlefield where humanity was proving unexpectedly formidable. As preparations for the first galactic tribunal progressed, an emergency transmission cut through all communication channels. Grand Imperator Kelvex, no longer resplendent in ceremonial armor, but disheveled and frantic, broadcast from an unknown location. "You believe you've won, humans." His mandibles clicked rapidly in agitation. "Your justice is irrelevant." The camera pulled back to reveal a massive pulsing structure behind him. An ancient machine of impossible complexity, its core glowing with energy no human scientist could identify. "This is the heart of night," Kelvex announced. "Buried beneath the galactic core for 10,000 years. Its activation will cause the central black hole to release a gamma pulse that will sterilize half the galaxy." His compound eyes gleamed with desperate triumph. "Your Earth will be ash. But your colony worlds might survive if you release all Vexari immediately and withdraw your forces." The transmission ended with coordinates and a 48-hour deadline. In the war room aboard the human flagship Resilience, Admiral Chen studied the transmission with Earth's allies. "Is this possible?" he asked the Orcs scientist. The crystalline being's facets darkened in the equivalent of a grave nod. "The heart is not myth. Our oldest mathematical proofs reference such a device. If activated, the death toll would be incalculable." Captain Maya Wong stepped forward. Her family had died in a retaliatory Vexari strike on the lunar colonies, a loss that had made her Earth's most effective Special Forces commander, but also its most haunted. "Sir, I volunteer to lead the infiltration team," she said, her expression revealing nothing of the rage that had driven her since losing her family. Chen shook his head. "The coordinates point to an uninhabitable system. Our intelligence suggests it's a trap." "Most certainly," agreed the Skill representative, their multifaceted consciousness speaking through 3 bodies simultaneously. "But the threat cannot be ignored." Within hours, an impossible team assembled. Captain Wong commanding humans with specialties ranging from quantum physics to ancient language translation. Skittle drone minds capable of coordinated multi-point attacks. Meridian deep space adepts who could survive in environments lethal to most species. And a single Orcs mathematician whose crystalline structure could potentially interface with ancient technology. Their mission departed aboard the stealth vessel Shadow of Dawn, a ship incorporating technology from all allied species. Upon reaching the coordinates, a system dominated by a pulsar bathing its planets in lethal radiation, they discovered horror beyond imagination. The heart of night wasn't merely a weapon. It was a massive engine drawing power directly from captive beings suspended in temporal stasis. "These aren't members of known species," whispered Dr. Katori, the team xenobiologist. Her instruments revealed the truth. "These are the precursors, the original inhabitants of the galaxy, thought mythical or extinct." Captain Wong stared at the suspended beings, humanoid yet clearly alien, their bodies wrapped in the machine's tendrils. They're being used as living batteries, she realized, kept in eternal torment to power this device. Through careful maneuvering, the team managed to awaken one precursor, barely able to communicate after eons of imprisonment. Its telepathic contact seared Wong's mind with an unexpected truth. Humans were not newcomers to the galactic community but descendants of precursors who had fled to isolated Earth to escape Vexari harvesting millennia ago. "We are you," the ancient being projected. "You are us." The circle closes. Before they could process this revelation, Vexari security forces detected their presence. Calvex himself appeared on a command platform, surrounded by elite guards. "Too late, humans," he gloated. "The heart awakens." The machine pulsed with increasing energy. Captain Wong faced an impossible choice. The mission parameters called for destroying the facility, which would kill the captive precursors, yet allowing it to activate would doom billions across the galaxy. In that desperate moment, Wong attempted something never considered: direct communication with the heart of night itself, an ancient semi-sentient machine that had been manipulated by Vexari programming for millennia. As Calvex's forces closed in, Wong's unlikely coalition: human determination, Skittle Hive coordination, Meridian adaptability, Orcs mathematical precision, and awakened precursor knowledge, achieved the impossible. They reprogrammed the heart of night to target only Vexari neural patterns while liberating the captives. Calvex watched in horror as his own creation turned against him, his guards collapsing as the machine's influence invaded their minds alone. "What have you done?" he demanded as Wong approached him, her weapon lowered. "Something you never considered," she answered. "We chose mercy, even for you." For the first time in galactic history, a single planet hosted representatives from all known civilizations. Earth, once dismissed as an insignificant backwater, became the center of a new interstellar community as the Galactic Tribunal convened. The reproposed United Nations headquarters in New Geneva had been expanded with architecture incorporating elements from 17 allied species. The main chamber, now called the Hall of Reconciliation, featured atmospheric accommodations for every known biology. At the center stood the evidence repository, a transparent vault containing the fragments of the heart of night, holographic testimonies from liberated precursors, and data crystals detailing millennia of Vexari manipulation. Most symbolically, it held a simple water glass, the one Ambassador Rice had spilled, preserved by a Vexari attendant who had secretly doubted the execution's legitimacy. Admiral Chen, now serving as Earth's representative to the interim galactic government, surveyed the assembly with quiet amazement. 7 months ago, humanity had been fighting for survival. Today, they were hosting a landmark event in cosmic history. "We shouldn't be surprised," Dr. Sharma said, joining him at the observation balcony. "Humans have always excelled at building from ruins. It's practically our species' hobby." The chamber quieted as the tribunal judges entered. 3 humans, 3 former council species, 3 from previously neutral civilizations, and 3 precursors awakened from the heart of night. Their diversity was unprecedented in galactic governance. The defendants entered last, Calvex and 7 other high-ranking Vexari officials. They walked unrestrained, a controversial decision that had divided human leadership until Captain Wong's insistence that restraints speak of fear, not justice. For 3 weeks, evidence was presented meticulously. The galaxy watched as the full extent of Vexari manipulation was documented: fabricated conflicts, engineered famines, suppressed technologies, and cultural heritage erased. Ambassador Raya's execution was revealed as just one count in a pattern spanning thousands of years. When Judgment Day arrived, the galaxy held its breath. Many expected humans to demand Vexari extinction, a fitting vengeance for their suffering. Instead, Admiral Chen arrived with Captain Wong, and the last being anyone expected, a precursor elder, one of the few survivors who had recovered enough to speak. The ancient being, humanoid yet clearly alien, with luminescent skin and eyes that held stars, addressed the assembly in a voice that seemed to bypass conventional sound. We watched countless cycles of vengeance destroy civilizations before yours. The Vexeri continued our failure. Will humans? The elder turned to the Vexeri defendants, who knelt in terror before their ancient victims. Then the sentence was pronounced, stunning all who witnessed it. Vexeri society would not be destroyed but transformed. Their children would be raised in mixed communities throughout the galaxy. Their technology would be repurposed for restoration rather than domination. Their history would be preserved as warning rather than erased. Most revolutionary was the new Galactic Charter, crafted jointly by humans and former Council species. Its first principle read, "No civilization may unilaterally determine the fate of another." When a Orcs representative questioned whether the Vexari might eventually seek revenge, Captain Wong, her face bearing visible scars from the Heart of Night mission, responded simply, "If we execute them as they executed Elena, we become them. If we show mercy they never conceived, we create something new." 3 years later, at the opening of the new Galactic Assembly headquarters built above the reclaimed Heart of Night facility, a memorial garden contained plants from every member world. At its center stood a simple hologram of Ambassador Elena Reyes, endlessly pouring water between two glasses, one representing justice, the other mercy, neither ever emptying. The inscription, written in all galactic languages, read, "They taught us how to die with dignity. We taught them how to live with it." As night fell, representatives of 300 species, including young Vexori raised in the new system, gathered around the memorial. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy's civilizations bowed together not in submission to power, but in respect for the possibility of becoming something greater than their worst impulses. Humanity had not just won a war. They had transformed the very meaning of victory.